Hey everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, I'm joined by Joe D'Angelo, and he'll give us an update on Kruisefest 2021, as well as the KISSmas Masquerade event being held in Sarasota, Florida on December 18th and 19th of 2020. Also, Joe will give us some insight on Bob Kulick and a book he was working on prior to his untimely death. Joe will read to us a passage from that unpublished book that I think KISS fans are going to really enjoy hearing. I think you guys will really like this episode. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. Now, without further ado, let's jump in and get started with my conversation with Joe D'Angelo. Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of the Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, I'm really excited to have back with me my friend and Kruisefest promoter, Joe D'Angelo. How you doing, buddy?
Good, Mike. Good to be back.
Yes, absolutely.
If I keep coming back, I'm going to have to be a co-host or something.
It sounds like a plan to me. You want to? I'll bring you in. Oh, man. It's actually pretty funny. The last time you and I spoke was in, I think, mid-March. And it was, I think, a few days before you were going to put tickets on sale for Kruisefest 19. And at the time, there was a little bit going on with the coronavirus, but it seemed like everything was, relatively speaking, okay. And then in a matter of 48 hours, it hit the fan, and obviously we know Kruisefest 19 had to be postponed. So that must have been tough for you guys, huh?
You know, it was, because we get excited with all the work that goes into it. By March of 2020, we were already, well, March of this year, we were already, knee deep in promoting, at least on the back end. Yep. And then all of a sudden, we just put it all on the shelf. And then, of course, you have lots of cancellations and all that. But we're looking at 2021 with gung-ho, man. We're ready to go.
Absolutely. So let's talk about that. So 2021, Kruisefest is going to be happening again right before the cruise, right? Is it still yes. Bruce Kulick, Ace Frehley? Give us some of the details around this.
Yes, as far as we know, with some things we're working out with the lineup, and we have a major announcement coming in December when we'll get into this at the KISSmas Masquerade party down in Sarasota. But we're happy to say that, and I haven't told this yet, so you're actually I'm dropping great news.
All right, come on, let's go. This is exciting.
Our host hotel, we are going to use the DoubleTree, which was originally the hotel we had last year. But remember, if you remember, there was going through renovations, and they weren't able to get the renovations done in time, which is why we had to move the event. But this hotel was perfect logistically. The layout was great. There were rooms for breakout sessions for like smaller concerts, smaller acoustic sessions. The Expo, everything was there. And now with this new renovation, this multi-million-dollar ballroom renovation, it's off the charts. I can't wait to bring Kruisefest back there, because anyone who went to Kruisefest last year knows how awesome it was. It really turned out great. Absolutely. I think this year is going to turn out, 2021 will be even better.
Absolutely. Now, will Kruisefest this year, or I should say next year, be a similar layout? Like, will you have some dealers? Will it be a room with a show? Do you have any of that worked out or not yet?
We do. It is going to be a 2-day festival, like last year's. We're going to do the KISS Expo and have some shows. We'll probably have like acoustic stuff going on during the expos. We're definitely going to be doing some Q&As. We've already got some people lined up that are, very interested in being there, and we're trying to work out the logistics of that. It's a little tight right now because you can't really book flights and things like that for people who are out of country. Yep. We've got some great stuff lined up for this year, next year, I guess, at this point. But I mean, it's amazing for an event that is a year and a half away. I mean, I get people calling me on it every day. What are we doing? How's this? When's that? When are tickets going on sale? Blah, blah, blah. So on that note, and I'll say this, KISSmas Masquerade 2020 is happening in Sarasota on December 19th. At that event, December 18th and 19th, actually. At that event, we are going to be dropping some pretty big news about our lineup. which I think people are going to be floored by. And we're also going to let people know when tickets are going to be on sale.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, for the people coming from overseas, there might be concerns. We know there's a lot of travel restrictions right now. Do you have any plans on how to support that with them, or any thoughts on that?
Because we're fans and we get it, we're already talking, but amongst ourselves, and I say ourselves, I mean me, Neil, Bill, Jay, and our new partner Brian Bell. To anybody who buys a ticket, essentially, if you can't get stateside, we're going to refund you. We'll make sure that happens. We're not going to keep anyone's money. We don't do this to get rich. It's not about that. This has always been for the fans, by the fans. So.
Yep. And you've been involved in these now for a number of years, whether it was, you were involved in the one with Vinnie Vincent, then last year, obviously the one with Ace Frehley, and what was it, Return of the Comet was there as well, right? So, fans know you. And like you said, you're not out to screw anybody over or get rich on this. This is all about, like you said, by the fans, for the fans. And I think that comes across, especially somebody like me, that comes across big time.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And, there's been, I guess I've been doing this now, I guess it'll be almost 5 years by the time 2021 rolls around. And how I first got involved in this, Andy Moyen, who ran the Living in Sin parties down in Miami for the pre-cruise, and he would do his parties, which were much smaller, had about 100, 150 people in the bar of the Holiday Inn. And I went to several. I had a good time. It was always fun. And, when it was moving to New Orleans that year, which I think was Kiss Cruise 7, Andy basically said, look, I don't know anybody in New Orleans. You want to help me with this? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I do events all the time. And New Orleans is my home away from home. As a huge Saints fan, I go there, I see games. I love New Orleans. So we, in fact, we worked on that event. If you remember, I don't know if you were there, but Evan Stanley played at that event.
Right.
It was a really, really great event. And we went from about 100, 150 people that Andy would normally get at those events to about 700, which is, what I bring to the table when I do an event. I always try to make them as big and as successful as possible. That's what, that's the plan.
Sure.
So the following year, as soon as that event was over, we were like, you know what? We're going to work. We're going to make next year even bigger. I immediately got on the phone, started working, connecting with Vinnie Vincent, getting that lined up. I knew that was going to be difficult, challenging, but it turned out great. The fans had an awesome time. He was great to the fans, and I can't thank him enough for that. Dealing with him behind the scenes, it can be tenuous, but he was great to the fans, so it was all good. When that was over, Andy had basically said, I'm retired. He got up on stage and said, I'm done. I'm not doing any more of these shows. I'm finished. Right. And that worked out fine, because at that event, the Vinnie Vincent event, Neil, my partner now, was playing in Kiss America. So we met at that event, and he was like, Joe, if you don't have a partner next year, we should talk. I'd love to be involved. And once I met Neil and started working with him, night and day. I'm so glad we connected, because he's so professional that it makes things a lot easier for me. Okay. And we've been doing great. Kruisefest last year was awesome. This year coming up is awesome. Neil's event down in Sarasota that's coming up, we'll get into, is going to be great. But I'd like to clear the air about something if I can.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I've seen some posts on Facebook, and I'm not going to get into who posted what. I think if you saw the posts, I just want people to know the posts were saying that I didn't donate the money to the charity. They didn't know where the money went. Blah blah blah. That event for Vinny cost a lot to put on. Sure. 4x8 cost money. The sound cost money. The club cost money. Vinny cost money. Everything cost money. But at the end, when all was said and done, we donated $5,040 to the Breast Cancer Research Foundation. And I actually have the official donation receipt. I don't know if you can see this here.
Yep. Okay.
But I have the highlighted section should say, if you can read that.
Yes, I can actually, 5,040.
Good, because I'd like people to know. I don't want them to think that somebody puts up a post like that and it implies something that isn't true. I think people know me better. I'd like to think people know me better, but some people like to play games and do stuff that is necessarily mature. But you just want to make sure that some people don't believe it. So we did donate money. As a matter of fact, this 5,040, I was told I was like if you donate in a certain time frame, sometimes they have like a match. So this was actually doubled. So it
nice.
wound up being $10,080 that got donated to the breast cancer research.
Nice.
So I was really happy about that.
Yep.
At the end of the event, we had a little bit of a surplus, and I sent Andy a check for about $3,500. I would have taken about $3,500 myself, but we owed Vinny $5,000 at the end, and Andy didn't want to pay him. I did. I didn't want to not. I'm in this as a business. I have a responsibility. Vinny, like him or love him, or hate him or not, whatever the case may be, he did what he was supposed to do. So I basically called Vinny and I'm like, look, my partner doesn't want to pay you his share of the $5,000. I'll give you $2,500. Can we settle on that? And he said, okay. I sent him his $2,500. I made about $1,100 when all was said and done, and I walked away. And it was great. I didn't even care about making money as long as I broke even and didn't owe money. But I actually got killed on my taxes because I had to claim it. Because we donated such a large amount, it had to go through somebody's taxes, so it went through mine. I wound up getting killed. But long story short, I just want people to know that there was nothing untoward, and Kruisefest was a rousing success. And the same thing. We had a charity component there, and you can ask any of the partners, and they'll tell you that everything went where it was supposed to go. So thanks for letting me air that on our
No, that's okay. And Joe, I'll say this. Obviously, I know you. We've done this, like we said at the start of this, 4 times. I think I've spoke with Andy a few times, so I know him a little bit. From a fan's point of view, all of that you just said happened. None of us even knew, and I mean this. How do I say this in a none of us even cared necessarily, right? And you know what I mean by that, right? We just had a great time that night, and whether it's you, Andy, and everybody else involved, I'll say from a fan's point of view, thank you, because to this day, it's 2 years later, that's still the only time Vinny's been on stage playing electric guitar in public in 25, 30 years, right? So you guys collectively pulled off, in my mind, the impossible, right? Something
I'll be honest with you, to me, as a KISS fan, it's a badge of honor that I wear proudly.
Right, as you should, as you should, absolutely. And it was a great night, and I was right up against the stage that night. And, I'll just add my own commentary here for 30 seconds. People have said, Vinny looked scared that night. He can't play anymore. He did look a little nervous. It was the first time he's on stage for 25 years. I've seen in a private setting, and I know, Neil was one of the things I think as well. Vinny could play. Vinny could still play for whatever his reasons, contractual or otherwise. He chose not to, but it's still, I put that, hey, we might not see Vinny in a public forum again, ever performing like that. And you guys accomplished it. So I'm happy that you cleared the air, because obviously that's important for you. And I want to give you that opportunity to do so. From a fan's point of view, it was a great freaking night, and that's all that mattered to me.
And I'll be honest with you, that's really all that matters to me, is that everybody has a great time.
Right.
When they go home and they talk about, this is their vacation.
Right.
Absolutely.
So absolutely.
I'm glad you feel that way too.
Yeah, and you're spot on. Vinny was really great to the fans, I thought, because at that time I had not interviewed Vinny ever, right, and I had really no relationship with Vinny. And I walk into the room to get something signed, and he looks up and he goes, "Mike from New York." I'm like, how the hell is he? He remembered me from the Vault experience 6-7 months prior.
Wow,
I'm like, how the hell does he remember? I'm a bald-in, middle-aged, overweight guy. I'm as basic as they come. But he remembered me, and it was just like, it was a lot of fun that year, and it was a lot of fun last year with the Ace Frehley band and Return of the Comet. Your shows have always been a lot of fun. And that's what it's about to me. And that's why, to me, I'm sure 2021 is going to be a great time again, because you've got a track record that proves that.
I appreciate that. Yeah. And, it's great. Speaking of Return of the Comet, I listened to your show, a recent recording where you had John Regan on.
Yep.
And what an awesome class act. I can't speak enough good words about the guy. Yeah. I only wish he lived closer so I could drink beer with him on a regular basis.
Absolutely.
Actually, with John, it would probably be a bottle of vino. So we can share.
There you go. Exactly. Exactly. No, he is. He's a great guy. I love his honesty, and I love his professionalism through decades now. And they should all be as good as John, is the way I say it.
I agree.
Yeah. So you mentioned before the KISSmas Masquerade in Florida coming up. So what's that all about? Tell the fans what that's about.
This is basically my partner Neil, his baby. Him and Brian Bell, who is now a new partner to Kruisefest. Him and Brian are working on KISSmas Masquerade. And originally, I think Neil Neil just wanted to do something. Like all of us, we're kind of all going stir crazy right now. This whole coronavirus thing has everybody at home just dying for some live music.
Absolutely.
Well, down in Florida, you can have live music because there's no restrictions right now.
Yep.
So Neil came up with the idea of having this awesome party, and he's got some great lineup down there. And I know he intended it to be a much smaller event, but Neil, like myself, can't do anything half-assed. It's got to be all or nothing, and I appreciate that in him because I get it. I'm the same way. And I'm just going to read you some of the people that I know are at the show, and one of them I'm going to break on the show and here's now.
All right. Excellent. Let's hear it.
First off,
make me sad as you read it off. Go ahead.
I'm right there with you because I can't be there.
Right.
I can't be there. I'm helping as much as I can from up north, but if I go down there, I got to quarantine around Christmas, and I just can't do it.
Yeah, you and I are in the same exact boat. Neil reached out to me. He's like, Mike, you going to come? And I'm like, I want to. I can't quarantine during the holidays.
Can't do it. Yeah. And plus, I'd have to quarantine. I'd miss 2 weeks of work, and my boss would not pay me. So
there you go. Right, absolutely. So go ahead, read them off. We'll cry together.
So he's got Kurt. I forget his last name. I think it's Froelich. He's the singer from LA Guns.
Yep. Okay.
I think he lives down there. He's going to be down there doing I believe, an acoustic set or something like that. Jean Bevois, who also lives down there, is going to be. Of course, you got the guys from the Talisman, Ryan, Jeremy, and Phil.
Yep.
Those guys are going to be down, and they're going to be doing all kinds of things for both days. Enough's Enough is going to be there doing a show. And I believe he's doing something with an Eddie Van Halen tribute.
Okay.
And there's a guy down in his neck of the woods who's an amazing guitar player, and he's going to do a big Eddie tribute. So that should be really impressive.
Nice.
But the neat thing, and this is what's really making me mad I can't be there, and I'm breaking it on your show.
Okay.
Just signed Rick Derringer.
Wow.
Now, for those of you who don't know this, Rick Derringer plays the solo on Exciter.
Yes, he does.
It up. And the stories behind that, did he get the okay? Was Gene in the studio? Did they tell him what to play? Blah, blah, blah. He's going to do a Q&A. He's going to answer all that.
Nice.
He's going to play Exciter live for the first time ever.
Wow. Okay.
And he's going to do Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo, which is his rock and roll all night. And he's just going to be a real intricate part of the event. And I'm excited to watch it online. Both days will be streaming.
Oh wow.
And you can get I think it's like $10 or something to have streaming access for both days.
Okay.
And he's going to be having live auctions during the day, the Q&As, the concerts, all going to be streaming, and you're going to be able to watch it. He's got a professional streaming company coming in to do it all. There are still tickets left, he told me. All the premium tickets are gone, but there are still general admission tickets, which can be purchased at KISSmas2020.com.
Okay.
What I thought was neat, and this is, again, Neil being a little bit he's a forward thinker. Just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should do something. The venue that they are doing this event in holds like 1,000 people. And instead of selling 1,000 tickets, which judging by the response, he probably could have come close to selling, if not selling them all, he decided to keep it to a small number. I think he's doing 2 or 250, something like that.
Wow. Okay.
20% of the room, 25% of the room. Everybody's going to get their temperature checked, and you got to wear your mask. You got to be checked. Everybody, because he wants people to be safe. He wants you to not contract something that, quite frankly, we've all been trying to avoid.
Of course, exactly. Yeah.
So it should be a great event. I know I'm going to be watching it on streaming both days. I'm really looking forward to it. I know he has some other tricks up his sleeve. I can't tell you what he's working on, but if it comes through, man, you and I are both going to be miserable.
Oh man! So now you would say same way to get the tickets. Do you get the streaming if you want to purchase that at the same spot?
Yeah.
Right. And what was the website again? Say it again for one more time for fans.
It's KISSmas2020.com. KISSmas 2020.com.
Okay. Excellent.
And all the details are there. And if you hit the contact, you'll either get Brian or Neil, and they'll give you exactly what you need.
Excellent. And then going back to Kruisefest, do you guys have any idea when you're going to put tickets on sale? Not, before the new year or after the new year? Any thoughts on that?
Well, we're finalizing all that now. What we're trying to do is time it so that it works for the people who are buying the tickets. We don't want to put them on sale right before Christmas. People who have other things going on. So what we're thinking of doing, and we'll have it worked out before KISSmas Masquerade Party, and we'll something cool. Neil is arranging. Neil J. Jadovsky, the other one of the other partners from our, he lives in Florida, and Brian Bell, of course, lives in Florida. So those three partners from Kruisefest are all going to be at the event. Bill, who lives, I believe, in Minnesota, and myself here in New Jersey, we're going to be live streaming at the event. So all five of us will be on the screen together, and we're going to make all our Kruisefest announcements at one time.
Very cool.
And, how to sign up for the room, which, by the way, the room's only $149 a night this year, so we get down.
It's a good deal.
Where tickets will be on sale, what the lineup is going to be, all that stuff will be revealed.
Nice. Now, I know on the Expo part of the Kruisefest, to me, one of the cool things was in prior years, you even had some, I'll say, special guests as part of that also, right? So I think last time, I'm trying to remember, Keith Valcourt was there. If I remember, Lydia Chris was there. I think Bob Kulick was there, right? So there was a bunch of different people that, us KISS fans love to just go take a picture, maybe get something at their table. So will there be something like that again?
Absolutely. The Expo portion of the event, there'll be an Expo at the beginning of each day at Kruisefest. And then we'll have people there, like I'm sure Dale Torborg is going to be there. I talked to John Hart already. I'm sure he'll be there. Just a lot of people that we're talking to now. We're just it's hard because they're all they all want to come, right? But with COVID, they're just kind of sitting on their hands waiting to see how it shakes out.
Right. We don't know yet, right? By next October, this could all be a memory, right?
Yeah. Amen.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so, my friend. Let's hope so. So when we're talking about some of those some of the guests from prior shows that you've done, sadly, obviously, we lost Bob Kulick in the last year. And you had Bob at your show last year. And I think you were saying to me that you had like a funny story or a good story that you want to share about Bob. So I hope I'm not putting you on the spot, but I think you're okay with talking about this, right?
I have to be honest with you. I met Bob. I met him years ago. And he was always pleasant to me because at the time I was just a fan. He didn't know that I do what I do and the promoting and all and the booking of bands and all that. So he kind of, didn't connect. When we were doing the event in New Orleans, I reached out to him to see if he would come to that event, and things didn't present themselves to happen. But he did make it to Miami the following year to come to the Vinnie Vincent event. And over the course of that year, we actually struck a really good friendship. And he, at one point we were talking and he called me a mensch. Now, I didn't know what a mensch was. I assumed it was a compliment, but I was like, oh, great, thanks. And I'm like, did he just insult me? I have no idea.
And then you're thanking him for it.
So I went and I found out, and I realized it was a very touching comment. It was nice to know that I meant something to Bob. And he and I started working on a book for him that he wanted to release. So I was going through editing some of his chapters and his stories and trying to help put some sort of context to it all. And the title of the book was Kiss the Bald Truth. And the point was, a little play on the Kiss aspect because he had so many stories about Kiss to tell. Some of them weren't great.
I'm sure.
One of them was, and Gene might get mad at me for this, and Gene, if you're listening to me, I'm sorry. But it's funny. It was funny. He had a conversation he saved. Gene had apparently called. Gene and Paul, I guess, did some things in Bob's studio over the years, recorded some different stuff, tracking, maybe solo material, whatever. And somehow Gene wanted something that Bob had, but Bob wanted to get paid for it. He's like, okay, well, I got it, but you owe me X amount of dollars for it. Send me a check. And Gene called him and left him a voicemail message that he played for me. And Gene ripped him a new asshole. Wow. And this was like, I don't know, late 80s. So years go by. He still has this tape, like 20 years later. So Gene wants the tape back, and he says, yeah, fine, here's whatever. Here's a few bucks, give me the tape. He goes, I still have that phone call. And Gene's like, what phone call? So he played the phone call for Gene because he had the recording of it. and he played the recording of Gene listening to his recording. I have never heard Gene laugh so hard in my life. It was such a funny moment, and it was neat as a Kiss fan to see that dichotomy between those two. So, you know, that was kind of neat. So he had a bunch of Gene and Paul stories. I think Paul and he had butted heads a little bit more than he and Gene. But, you know, some of the stories that he gave me, I have probably 40 chapters or 40 stories that would have been worked into chapters.
Wow.
And half of them are Paul stories. But I, in good conscience, I can't do anything with them because I'm not going to publish it. I'm not going to put it out there. This was Bob's to do. And now that he's gone, those stories go with Bob.
Right. Now, do you think Bruce would have any interest, you know, in those stories and maybe doing something with them?
You know, I don't know. I haven't spoken to Bruce about it. And you know, it's kind of, to me, it's still kind of fresh that his brother's gone. I still see the wonderful posts they put up all the time on social media about Bob and his hats.
I love it. Bob Hat Tuesday. Yeah.
It cracked me up.
Absolutely.
So I thought I'd read you a little something. I won't go too long in it, but
please go ahead.
One of the stories was, he said he became Diana Ross's guitarist at the time Gene and Paul were competing for celebrity females. The two would often go back and forth to see which one could get the hotter celebrity. In this case, Gene won. After dating Cher, there was Diana Ross. Win-win. Paul couldn't quite compete. And he goes on to say about how Paul dated Patti LuPone and Cher's sister, and then Donna Dixon. So he goes down and he starts talking about, you know, some conversations between them and the girls, which I'll skip. But he talks about how he was living in Paul's apartment, hung up the phone and laughed one day when he got a call from Gene that asked me to come over to the Power Station studio and play a guitar solo on Diana Ross's new record. He says, I laughed heartily, thinking for sure this is a joke. He says, but I hurried, got my stuff together, grabbed a taxi, shot across town to River Court East 52nd Street to the river where the awesome Power Station's studio is, I guess was. He said he already played guitar. You know, he played guitar with Patti LaBelle at one point.
Sure.
So he had kind of known the people, and to him to play with Patti was unreal. He loved her and worshipped her, which I thought was pretty awesome. So he said working with female singers was great. I've always respected them, and Diana Ross was the queen. So I had confidence I could impress Diana, especially since Gene could have called anyone, but he called me. After he knew that I could play anything, and he knew my musical history, he knew that I would not be intimidated by the circumstances or Diana. I said to him, "Are you sure Diana wants me? I mean, I played on Kiss records." So he thought that was kind of funny. So he meets Larry Alexander, met him at the studio. He was an engineer at the time. I don't know if you know who Larry was. He was an engineer at the Power Station back then. Was world renowned at that point.
Okay, yeah.
I don't think he's still with us, to tell you the truth. So he gets there, and he got introduced to Diana. After being there, they heard the finished product of Why Do Fools Fall in Love, and it sounded great with her vocal. Gene asked me to put some rhythm guitars on it, which I did, and then the conversation about the guitar solo came up. So Gene said, "Hey Bob, make a solo rock without rocking." Well, little did I know, I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. But I did know what he meant in the sounds of making a solo rock. So I dug deep, pulled out some R&B licks, some Rolling Stone licks that I always liked, and we made it work. At the end, it was a hit single, and I did it. I was thrilled to be a part of something. So Diana had just signed a new $1.5 million record deal at that point. What are $1.5 million? Think about that.
I know, right?
That's enough.
That's in 1980 dollars.
Yeah, exactly. So they told me, just go for it. It doesn't matter what you do, as long as it's good, it'll be on the record. So he played quite a few. He said, and they had one keeper solo that they really liked, and then they had a sax solo that they liked as well. And he said, you know, I don't know, but if the sax solo makes it over me, I'm done with the music business, he said. So he says, ironically, I could see how happy Diana and Gene were with my work, smiling and complimenting me. I could see Gene's pride showing as he impressed Diana with the idea of a guitar solo from little old me. I was thankful, but still unsure if the solo would stick. Went home proud of myself and excited that I got to play with Diana Ross and that I validated Gene's faith in me. Next thing I know, Gene is calling again and asked me to come back and play on another song. This time they wanted me to play and answer licks for a song called Mirror Mirror, which was a really cool funk piece that I had done, that I had a field day playing on, adding all those cool licks that came up with Diana and Gene were overjoyed. And it goes on and on. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but in the end, he says,
"Oh, I might force you to, Joe, because I'm enjoying this tremendously."
Are you really?
Yeah, I'm loving this. I'm like, wow, you've got 40 chapters of this. Do you have 40 hours to sit here and read them? I don't expect you to. I don't expect you to.
But he said he answered the phone a couple days later. Gene had said he talked with the RCA execs and the A&R guy about the marketing and the promotion. I gulped, and there was a pause. Did they like what they heard? Gene says they loved it. And they're going to be the first two singles off the album, and you're on both of them. He thanked me again for making us both look good, and I laughed. I asked if Diana was really happy with it, and Gene said that she loved what I did. And I thought, wow, what an unexpected big deal event provided me by Gene. I never thought he would have called me for that. It's one thing to call me for KISS to come in and rip off a solo on a 4-chord rock tune. It's another when you're asking me to play with someone as big and as prominent as Diana Ross. So he goes on to talk about when Gene was there when Diana did the Johnny Carson show and performed Why Do Fools Fall in Love and Mirror with him on guitar. He got to play. He said that was for me like the coming of age moment for him.
Wow.
And we had a conversation about that. I said, well, talk to me a little bit about that, Bob. How did that feel to be on Johnny Carson? He goes, Joe, when you're playing guitar and you're excited about what you're playing, your hair stands up. He goes, I didn't have hair on my head. He goes, and hair was standing up.
Right.
It's just amazing when he goes, I felt like I made it. He goes, I felt like I had gotten to the pinnacle. And, he can keep going on, and there's more to the story as far as what he did and the kind of stuff that he used. He goes into talking about the different equipment that he used. And I told him, I said, Bob, when you're writing a book, you can't have too much. Put it all down. And then we kind of edit it into a readable format, keeping it all together. And then when you finally go to publish it, you have an editor come in and edit it accordingly.
Right.
And, he wanted to self-publish because he didn't want, unlike I was working with Vinny for a brief moment about getting Vinny to do a book deal. But Vinny wanted a ton of money up front. That's not happening in today's world anymore.
Right.
Unless you're Stephen King or James Patterson, it's not happening.
It's not happening, right.
So that deal fell flat quickly. With Bob, all Bob wanted was someone to publish the books so that he could go out and sell them. He was ready to go do book tours and figured, as part of it being KISS and some backstories about KISS, members back then, that stuff didn't get out to the public. And with his brother, of course, being in the band for so long, he kind of had some knowledge, I'm sure, of things.
Sure.
He thought that KISS fans would love it, that it would be a great read. So I think so too, which is why I was so excited to be a part of it and to read all these different stories. But I just hope that Bruce, I'm guessing, got hold of Bob's estate and all the stuff that was part of it. I hope he has all these stories, and I hope he does something with them, because I think that KISS fans would want to read them. Yeah. I mean, just this little blurb about Diana, there's still more I could read, but point being is it's an interesting little blurb.
Yeah.
And if you have this much, and it was great, imagine if you have this much.
Right. So I'll say it this way, Joe. You just read that little blurb, and instantly I'm like, this might be the #1 KISS book I'd be interested in reading right now. So, I mean, because we've heard Bob talk about working with Diana Ross before, but that was a bit more detailed. It read personal, Bob's voice. And sadly, Bob's not with us anymore to share these stories. And it just, as you're reading it, I'm like, yeah, this is what I want to read about. This is what I want to hear about. And, I'm sure, like you said, there's not everything is positive, right? This is very positive and glowing about a great experience, but it's his story, and it's a great story, and that's one of the things of the last few years of his life that it was important to him, is that people realized there was a lot that he accomplished in his life, from Diana Ross, from the KISS stuff, from the SpongeBob stuff, and on, other things, Motorhead, etc. I'm sure it's a great read. So if it's not you, I'm hoping it's Bruce. I respect the fact that it's a little bit touchy and things are still new. But I don't know if you saw Bruce did that Q&A for the cruise thing a couple of Saturday nights ago, or Monday. I forget if it was Saturday or Monday, whatever, for the cruise.
One of my questions was in it, but I didn't actually get to see it yet.
Oh, yeah. So, Bruce was pretty open about the experience with Bob in the last couple of years, and, where things did turn a little south, and the the whole cruise thing and how that played a part in their relationship kind of going south. And he gave Bob credit for a lot of things. And, he said, he was very honest. And I was surprised. It seemed like the first time Bruce was opening up about some of this stuff, which I'm sure is very tough for him.
Yeah. Bruce always seemed to be a very, I don't want to say a quiet guy, because when you talk to him, he talks.
Yes.
But he's personal.
Yeah.
And there's some things that, quite frankly, when you're famous, you don't want people to know. And even if you're not famous, you don't want people to know.
Absolutely.
Like the stories that he's told, that Bob has told me about, what happened with him and Bruce. I won't put that out there. To me, that's nobody's business. If Bob put it out there in his book, that's on Bob.
That's Bob, right?
But I personally won't put it out there. But I know that Bob had some issues with Paul towards the end, mainly about the Kiss Cruise, because the Kiss Cruise with Bob and Bruce, that show was off the charts.
Agreed.
And everybody who was on that cruise said that was the best show of the night.
Agreed.
Even better than Kiss, and only because it was stuff we didn't get to hear. So I think he felt hurt that he didn't get asked to play again with Bruce. And because if he played, he wanted to get paid, because he's a musician. You don't play for nothing. You don't get a lot. He was thinking like a couple grand.
Yep.
And when Kiss wouldn't pay him a couple grand, specifically he blamed Paul. He felt slighted by Paul. And I know he had many conversations, and I got many emails documenting and stuff too. So I felt bad for him, because I just felt to myself, what, at the point that all these guys are in their 70s or almost 70, let's just have fun. I mean, you're lucky to still be doing this stuff.
Agreed.
I mean,
Agreed. Agreed.
So I felt bad for Bob, and he didn't play at Kruisefest last year, and we really wanted him to, but there was a little bit of a glitch of what was going on with him, Bruce, and the band, and we thought it was probably best if we just kind of left. And he was upset by that, but he was still at Kruisefest, and he was still a fan favorite. He took pictures with everybody. He signed everything. He did everything. He was a pro. He handled himself like a pro.
Yep, absolutely. And in between the Kruisefest of 2019 and 2018, he also was at the Indie Expo, if you remember, and where him and Bruce did do a show there as well. And that was May of 2018, I think it was, if I have my timeline right. So it's a shame, because there was even excitement around those shows that he did at the Indie Expo there. And then it just all fell off the cliff, unfortunately. And like you said, I wish at that age they could have, figured out a way to make it work out. I don't know the story. I don't know size, and it doesn't matter to me. It's like I said before with the, when you were showing the thing for the donation, I had a good time at those shows. I'll have those memories forever. And even Bruce said that show with his brother is probably his favorite memory of his career. So,
you know what? I'm glad for that.
Yeah.
Because I know after speaking with Bob as often as I did, and Bob and I would talk 3 times a week. One time he called me. I was down the shore, and I wound up sitting with my feet in the ocean for an hour and a half, just talking about Kulick. Right. It was kind of surreal. But I know how much he loved his brother. I know that meant a lot to him to play with him, and I think that hurt him more to not be on the next cruise playing with him more than anything. Now he's gone, and I really wish I had a chance to say goodbye, because I would have told him that I appreciated his friendship. But it is what it is, and sometimes we don't get to say goodbye to the people we wish we could.
Absolutely. Well, I'm hoping somehow, some way, those stories find their way out into the public, because I think it's a great story. I'm sitting here and I'm like, all right, I got to get Joe on again next week to read another chapter. We'll do this for 40 weeks in a row. You said you wanted to be a co-host. This is the way we're going to do it. So, no, but thank you for sharing that in all sincerity. Thank you, Joe, because I think the fans will appreciate hearing that as well. So thank you.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
So anything else with Kruisefest or the KISSmas party coming up that you want to talk about or let the fans know?
The only thing I would mention is go to kruisefest.com with a K and sign up. Just click enter your email in on the contact form to make sure that you're on the email list for the pre-sale.
Okay, excellent. Definitely will do. I know I will be. And like I said before, if your shows from prior years are any indication, 2021, we're going to be anxious to rock, and I'm sure you're going to give us a great party to do so.
Guaranteed.
Absolutely. Well, Joe, 4th time. Thank you for joining me. This is always fun. When the tickets go on sale and we're ready to promote the whole thing big time, you're welcome to be back on. And
thanks, man.
I hope we could see each other in person much sooner rather than later.
Yeah, amen to that.
Yes, absolutely. All right, Joe. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Kruisefest, KISSmas Masquerade 2020. Go check him out, and I'm guaranteeing you guys will have a great time. Thanks a lot, everybody. Talk to you soon. Thanks, Joe.
Hey, Mike.
Alrighty, there you have it. I'd like to thank Joe for joining me and talking everything Kruisefest, as well as the KISSmas Masquerade event coming up. I also like to give Joe a special thanks for sharing with us those great stories about Bob Kulick and reading that passage to us from Bob's unpublished book. Thanks a lot, Joe. We really appreciated that. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you next time.